Hey guys, SpacePigguArt here, and I'm back with part 2 of the Bride in Pink. And we're already jumping straight in, so I guess I'll try and keep up with myself. Here I'm just quickly doing the skin in Champagne, which is Y217 in Pro Marker shades. I try to colour as evenly as possible. So I tend to do this by going around the edges and then filling in the middle parts of those in small amounts. Sorry, I had something. Yeah. So that is basically how I do it, and here I've just decided to try and find a colour to shade with, which I think I pick out as Vanilla, or 0929. This is actually a flex marker as opposed to a pro marker. Oh shoot, didn't actually use it right there. Well done me. Yeah, no, I've just moved on to the hair here, which I'm using Pale Blossom for, which is M419, another pro marker shade. And the way I like to do hair is I fill in small sections that follow the way that the hair will go when I finish lining it, and I do this in order to minimize the effect that streaks in my colouring will have, so that if there is any unevenness, it can mostly be covered up when I do the final line art, which is, yeah, I think it's a pretty good way to do it. I would say it tends to make everything look a lot more even when you finally finish it. But yeah, so I'm just colouring in this whole area, trying to get it reasonably even. Yeah, I think you can see a few little streaks here and there, but as I said, I do this, the way I colour tries to minimise that, so, you know. But yeah, and there I just show you which pen I use, because I realised I'd forgotten to do that. Here I use Sorbet, or M128, which is a flex marker shade. It probably comes in pro markers as well, but I have it in flex because I quite like the flex markers too. And I'm just using this for the rest, well, for the main parts of the dress, so the little puffy sleeves, the bodice piece, or at least the back of it, and then the skirts. Here I realised I'd gone over the lines and tried to kind of erase out the pencil using it. So yeah, looks a little bit messy, but not as bad as it could. Yeah, so here I'm just continuing to try and colour it in, going pretty fast, as you can see with the blurring of the pen. And there I was just dabbing the paper with my finger to get rid of some of the excess marker so it wouldn't create like those rings that you sometimes get in markers. And I've just taken Chili Red, or R555, in order to do the little trim bits, and here I've added on a little extra nib, the fine tip nib that you can get for pro markers, which is actually very useful for tiny details like this. And here I've finally taken Vanilla in flex marker to do the skin, so I'm just quickly going round, putting shadows where I feel shadows should be. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Here I'm doing the white areas. I'm shading them using powder blue, or B119. So I'm just adding in all the shading, because obviously I'm not gonna try and colour it in a different colour while the paper is white, because it makes my life a little more difficult, and I haven't actually got any shades of grey light enough, or anything really light enough to have that look natural, so the white of the paper is what I stick with there. And here I've gone out of frame, but I'm just doing the shading on the skirt. There we go. I realise and show you the finishing bit there. So yeah. And now I'm just going through and I'm shading the hair a bit using the Sorbet colour again in Pro Marker, and again I'm going just out of frame, and hopefully, I think I realise in a second, and quickly move everything. Come on, No, still not quite realised. Honestly, I will do my best to get better at this. It's very easy to get just absorbed in what you're doing when you're trying to do something like this, but yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to create highlights in the hair, and yeah, I quite like the effect that the Pro markers, or rather the Flex markers, do for the hair, because it comes out with a much more like feathered appearance at the end, which I guess is why a lot of people prefer Copic markers. But you can get a pretty similar effect just using the normal Pro markers, and I think it looks just as good. Yeah, and as you may have noticed, I tend to favour the like solid block shading. I don't tend to blend that much, and part of that at least is that I'm not that great at it. I haven't quite got that down yet, but yeah. And I'm just using the sorbet again to shade the skirts and the bodice and all of that whole dress part, which is the same colour as I used before, but as you can see, it layers up very nicely, which is something I really like about the Pro markers. You can layer them and just use one colour to create like all different range of tones, especially when you layer them up like this. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just going over some parts to make a few of the shadows a bit darker in the ears and under the chin, because that's a little bit more realistic, I guess, even though it's a very cartoony style. And now I'm taking Chili Red, which is, yeah, the same as I said before. Took me a moment, sorry. And I'm just filling in all of the roses, so yeah, might take a little while, because yeah, but I don't really go along the lines for this. I'm just filling it in because the pencil still just about shows through underneath, and I think after this, or well, in a little while later on in the video, I go over all of the lines in Firebrick, which is R739, and that, like, I guess adds a bit more dimension and shows through when I do the final line art over the top of this drawing. But yeah, what am I doing now? Something off screen, probably checking my colour charts and stuff. Maybe. Yeah, now I've taken Apple, and you'll see that this doesn't have a colour, and that's because it comes from my original set of Pro markers, which was part of the manga set, and they don't have any colour number or code on them, which is kind of annoying, but you know, it's just green. So yeah, and again, I've used that with the fine nib that you can get. So yeah, here I'm going over the sorbet again to make it a bit darker in places, add more shading, add a bit more dimension to the hair. Yeah, and I'm still trying to go in the same way, so like all of my breaks are roughly like where the hair would be splitting anyway, so that my line art can cover any breaks or any inconsistencies that there are anywhere where it overlaps too much because it's already dried. But yeah, I'm trying to keep talking so much because I don't want to have to add any background music to this, but only so much you can say when you're still colouring everything. Yeah, here I'm just adding some extra shadow again, like I did with the hair. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and now I'm just doing the little roses in the hair. Yeah, oh, and you can just about see some little tufts of my own hair poking through there, because I got a little bit close, because again, fine details. I like to be closer to the paper, which you may be aware of if you watched the part 1 of this, and if you haven't, I should have mentioned this before, maybe check out the part 1. It's just my sketching and swatching process, so I think it's quite fun. I think it's quite nice to see, but yeah. And I've just finished the little roses here, and now I take Firebrick, yeah, in order to, when it finally focuses. That takes in a little while, but yeah, and I just go over and add some shadows into the little lines, the little trimming parts of the dress. Yeah. So yeah, and then I'm just going around all of the roses, and I think that my camera might cut out at this, so I just finish it all off camera because it makes my life a bit easier. And yeah, I actually lost all of the final lining for this, so there I'm just like showing you that I've swatched both the gold and silver Signo Uniball pen, and I decided to use the silver one. So yeah, this is the final line art, by the way. I'm just lining it up so that I can copy over the little strings of shiny beads or whatever they are. Yeah, I'm just doing that on a light pencil so it won't show through at the end. Yeah, but yeah, I'm very sorry that that whole section while I was doing the lining just completely didn't film properly. I had the sound for it, which is completely useless to me, and none of the actual visual stuff, so I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Just technical problems, I guess, which is a bit annoying, but I'll have to work on that in the future. And here you can actually see the slight difference between the sketch face and the face she ends up with, which, as I said before, is much cheekier, which I really like. But yeah, here I'm just filling in the bigger beads that hold together the strings where they join, making sure I get them all in the right place, and in a moment I will start drawing all the tiny little dots, which is actually a lot easier than trying to draw in the tiny circles as I did before. I still don't know why I did that. Oh yeah, I added this headband that kind of got lost in the line art. Or in the colouring rather. But I add that back in. So yeah, and now I'm just doing all of these teeny tiny little beads, trying to get everything in, while also trying not to smudge the far over ones that I, for some reason, decided to do first, because I am just so intelligent. Oh, I should probably add as well, to do the line art, I did it in a sepia pen, dark sepia, which is a Faber-Castell? Faber-Castell? I'm not sure how you say it, but yeah, it's a Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen in dark sepia, and I used the S-tip one, which I think is 0.1 or something, but it's marked as S, so yeah. And I used that for, terribly sorry, I used that for all of the line art here, because I thought it would give a slightly softer effect than if I used a black pen, and I really like how it turned out. Yeah, and you can actually see where I messed up my lines a little bit, because they are the much thicker parts, but it works quite nicely because, you know, it you know, adds some weight to the lines. And here I'm just using the Signo Uniball in white in order to add some highlights, and I think we're nearly done here. I think I just show you a side-by-side of the two, the original sketch and the coloured version, and that's about it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will hopefully be back next week with another sketch or colouring video. So yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just showing you how pretty and shiny the pen is. So yeah, there is the final drawing, and here is the two side by side.